Hello guys, and welcome to It's Raining Let's Draw. Today I'm going to chat a bit about the first children's book that I've illustrated. I have it right here. It's called The Journey Towards the Sun, and it's written by Kira Moss, a Danish writer and Northern Light enthusiast. Now this book is quite special to me because first of all, it's the first children's book that I've illustrated, as I said, and I really love to do children's book illustration. That's actually my favorite thing to do. Besides that, it was the first large assignment that I was hired to. I had to do 24 illustration in all because there's 24 chapters in it. It's a Christmas story. Plus I had to do the front and the back cover in color. So I thought I might share this video with you guys on the process of how I went about doing the illustrations, including how I start reading it, how I figure out what to draw, how I figure out what to draw with, how the process of structuring is, and how I use thumbnails, inspiration, etc. I'll also show you how my messy sketches turn up to finished artwork in the end. The episode is divided into 4 parts. The first one is called Reading and Tuning In. The second part is called Inspiration and Style. The third part is called Researching and Sketching. The fourth part is called Creating the Finished Artwork. So the first part, Reading and Tuning In. When I have to illustrate a text or a story, I really like to first of all just read the text to kind of tune in on what kind of story it is, what kind of tone does it have.
Our story begins far away in the Norwegian woods. Actually so far out that humans only come if they are lost. Out there in the forest where the large pine trees are highest, was there and still is a small mountain.
It might be that I already here create some scribbles if something turns up in my head. As a visual person, it's inevitable that some kind of picture turn up in my head, so I might as well get it down on paper. It could be useful, and sometimes you just get an idea that's quite strong at your first moment. But first of all, I try to focus on just reading really and digest what I read. I usually then do a second read where I kind of start to dig in deeper into what each chapter is about, what's happening, what's going on in the chapter, what's the most important thing here, and what could I choose to illustrate. Here I think it's a great idea to write down some keywords to each chapter, so you have something to kind of have a hook that you can center your illustration around later. Now in the second part here called Inspiration and Style, I somewhere in between this phase of reading and this phase of finding my style, I start to sketch a bit. I start to do some drawings, some loose drawings here, because at some point you have to figure out what kind of style or what kind of medium you want to use to communicate the story with. In this case here, I wanted to strike something quite classical because it has this fairy tale kind of tone to it. So I wanted to try to describe something that had a classical feeling to it. But in the first phase here, it's really about creating a lot of sketches, and I kind of see like investigating a map in the terms of which roads should I take, and more importantly, which roads should I not take. In my case, I started using pencil here to do some sketches, and I quite quickly in the process realized that something was off. Pencil just wasn't my medium for this book. During this process, I also go and seek inspiration, because finding a style is also about finding the tone of the story. Is it a happy story? Is it dark? What kind of genre is it? And here you can see some of my main inspirations. Some of the drawings here inspired me in terms of perspective, and some of them inspired me in terms of mood. In this case here, I like how the environment of the woods is captured, and the magical atmosphere with this giant looking at us. And these are of course inspirations, so it means that I didn't want to copy these illustrators. I just want to get inspired and then find my own way. I tried to investigate further by using pencil and pastels. And no, this wasn't my way either. I also made sketches using pencils and watercolors to try that out, but again, I just didn't feel it. In these cases where you're trying to experiment to find your medium, I think it's all about intuition really, what feels right to you. I then started experimenting with ink, and then I felt something happening. I felt a connection between me and this medium. It sounds crazy, but this is something you can feel. I started sketching out a few of the scenes that I wanted to illustrate, and I created different kind of strokes, and I tried to play around with creating different washes. And then in the end, I found this combination of using washes and a nib pen to kind of create the details and create outlines. So in this way, I could use washes for backgrounds and some textures, and then I could use the pen to add details and expressions of the characters. Once you figure out a style that you want to use for your illustrations, then you really know how to draw all the elements in the book. You kind of have a concept down. So then it's time to celebrate actually. After having chosen a style, you can start going more into details of what element in each chapter you want to illustrate. What's the most important thing here? And it's varying from chapter to chapter, because illustration is also not just about drawing what the character does in the story. It's also about trying to describe the atmosphere. What's the atmosphere in it? And you can kind of also draw something that's not necessarily there in the text. In the process of researching and sketching, I think that personally my process is quite chaotic. I can shift between different drawings. I can shift between doing something finished while sketching on something else. I can also choose to go back to the text if I'm not happy about what it is I chose to illustrate. I think this varies a lot from person to person. You can go ahead and experiment. Sometimes I would draw a larger drawing if I feel like it. Sometimes I would just create a smaller drawing to kind of get a sense of the composition. And thumbnails are brilliant here because you get a good idea of how the composition looks quite early on in the process before going to a larger format. When I call this sketching, I'm also calling it researching, because sketching and researching is for me a bit of the same thing. There's a scene in the book where we see the church called the Nidaros Dome, and I then went online and I sketched the architecture of the dome before getting down to draw it. And you can see here the final artwork compared to the sketch. If I had the resources, I would have gone to Norway, I think, to study the dome and to study some of the other scenes or the landscapes in the book. Since I wasn't able to, I then tried to instead draw some of the things that I could draw. And there's this scene in the book with the cat, and I actually went to my neighbor's house because he has 3 cats. And I then studied one of the cats that was sleeping there. I studied it for several hours and really tried to get some drawing down of this cat, and I think it really helps you to get this realistic feel to it. Not realistic, but it just gives a lot of character to the cat that I wouldn't have been able to come up with if I had been Googling or if I had just used my imagination. So if you're able to it, do some studies from reality and put it into your artwork. Now the fourth part here is called creating the finished artwork. At this point here, I would maybe have done, let's say, a good part of all the 24 illustrations before turning my energy towards the front cover and the back cover. The front cover is really important because it's the one that has to catch the viewer's eye and make her or him to want to pick it up and read in it. Also, it has to set the tone of the book and in one illustration present the reader with the main character and what the story is about. It's quite a difficult task, but it's possible. Also for this one, it had to be in colors. Since now I was drawing in ink, black and white, and it had to be in color. And for me, color has always been a challenge, so I really had to put a lot of effort into it here. I made tons of sketches here, tons of watercolor experiments here to kind of achieve what I wanted to. Besides working with color, I also worked with how to create a strong composition for the book so that we can achieve this thing that I mentioned before, this visual and captivating image. And here I think again I would stress the importance of using thumbnails, because drawing in thumbnails you can quickly get a sense of what kind of composition works, what kind of composition you want. And because you just have this tiny space to draw in, you're kind of forced to minimize your elements. So you know you have a hill here, you have the tree, and then the characters. So instead of you going on and spending all the energy on details, you spend your energy on creating the most important elements in the story, in the cover, and then you can go and add the details when you are happy about a composition. And I think these two thumbnails here are really great. Actually, I think they're better than the final front cover, because they express so much, so simple. When you're in the process of inking up these drawings, go ahead and ask friends or family or colleagues of feedback, because sometimes you're blind to some things in the drawings that doesn't work, and getting feedback can really help you correct these things and see things in a new way. So in the end here, I would just like to present my favorite drawings in the book and share them with you. So in this drawing here, our troll meets his friend, the owl called Siri. And I just love the way how the owl kind of turns his head, and this way that I've been able to use ink washes to create the texture of the trees in the background. I think it works really well. And then this one, I like it because of the way the foreground kind of protrudes towards us, and the speed of the cat here. I think I used Google here actually to get that motion of the cat. And then we have the Norwegian tree houses in the background. And this drawing I also like. Here I went to the library to draw some books actually as a reference. And I also went to some antiquatic shops to kind of get the globe in, and some skulls here and there to illustrate this chamber where the wizard lives. This drawing I really like because of the strong composition, and actually the pixie to the right is one of my friends actually, who's on a summer day he picked up a herb or a plant or something, and there was his way of crouching down here, and this is I managed to draw him really quickly, and this is how he actually ended up becoming a part of this children's book. This is actually him crouching down and picking up a plant, and here he's a pixie grabbing an envelope. So thanks for watching. I hope that you found some of these reflections and thoughts about my process helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions on how to illustrate a children's book or anything other drawing related. Have fun drawing.